Question: what do all these great brands and hundreds of other organizations, both big and small, around the world have in common? Steve Diggs is one of America's most sought-after keynote speakers and trainers. Steve has shared his insights more than 2,500 times on 5 continents and on the ships at sea. Always fresh, on message, and up to the minute. A best-selling contributor and author of 9 books, Steve is a communications expert who inspires his audiences with wit, storytelling, and an encyclopedic knowledge of branding, marketing, leadership strategies, and life skills.
So here is the thing. They do not build statues to people for being mediocre. Success only happens when our dreams begin to overcome our fears. So today I want to talk to you about how to begin eating our problems for breakfast.
Steve tailors each presentation for each audience. However, some of his topics include person to personal, the people skills event, perfect for every employee on your staff, retooled and refueled, the essential life skills event that leads to dynamic and productive personal and professional lives, next-gen selling, closing and negotiating. A star salesman himself, this is Steve's ultimate sales event, packed with takeaways your team can begin using tomorrow. The Leadership Summit is where Steve inspires your team in 3 sessions: the heart of a leader, the mind of a leader, and the attitude of a leader. His popular money management seminar, No Debt, No Sweat, which he presented over 500 times. Pop Goes the Music is Steve's run-romp through the early days of rock and roll, with backstage stories about his friends. And in Confessions of an Ad Man, Steve looks back at his life in advertising filled with insights. Some of Steve's other big-picture topics include successful conflict resolution, how to be an effective communicator, practical time management strategies, the art of effective negotiation, free to succeed, and how to have a marriage that lasts, and kids who don't.
Listen, real fast question. How many of you in here will even admit to having used these little yellow and black books back when you were in school? None of your teachers are here today. How many of you? Yeah, a lot, quite a few of us, right? These little yellow and black Cliff Notes books were what got me through school back in the day. There were a lot of times when I was 200 pages into a 300-page book, and I'm thinking to myself, Steve-O, you don't even want to know this much about this topic. What you need right here, right now, are some quick takeaways that you can start using tomorrow morning.
Steve isn't a comedian. He's a humorist who communicates with lots of eye candy and audience interaction. Steve shows audiences how to get beyond the noise so they can enjoy the symphony of their lives. CNN has called Steve a public relations expert. In addition to corporations, universities and nonprofits look to Steve Diggs for leadership strategies, professional coaching, and team-building insights that boost their performance as they go to the next level.
I brought this rope up here for a special reason. I want to communicate the fact that things are frequently not the way they appear to be. I mean, just a simple rope, there's not anything to this. However, sometimes when you think differently, you can get very different results. Kelly, thank you so much for those remarks. This has been a 2-year merger process that we've been working on, and I am excited to see this company not only becoming the very biggest airline in the world, but also the very, very best airline in the world. So if your seatbelts are fastened and if your trays are in those upright and locked positions, let's get started. I have 3 strategies that I want to share with you today on how to get from where we are to where we want to be. Okay, let's get started.
Steve brings years of experience in the entertainment business and as a radio and TV personality. You may have seen him on CNN or CBS Radio, or if in Nashville, as Fox TV's resident money and life skills coach. Currently, The Big Picture with Steve Diggs is airing on public television and is heard around the world on radio. Steve's unique ability to entertain and enrich while informing has made him a master of infotainment. A great fit for conventions, resorts, and cruise ships.
Good morning, everybody. Is everybody wide awake? Everybody happy? Welcome to your very last day on this fabulous Princess Cruise. Has everybody had fun? Bonnie and I have had a ball. Matter of fact, we've already scheduled 2 more Princess Cruises coming up. I call this infotainment. And we're going to have some more fun this morning before we start making some stuff for ourselves, like our own beds. This morning, though, we are going to look one more time at the big picture, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how to see less and less tunnel and more light in our life.
When it comes to leadership strategies, Steve knows his stuff. His concepts are built on decades of real-world experience. In academia, Steve taught college. Professionally, he became a renowned private investor. In the business world, Steve founded 5 companies, including a record label, 2 publishing companies, and a broadcast production firm. But his crown jewel was his wildly successful career as head of the Franklin Group, Steve's internationally acclaimed ad agency. Today, Steve shares his intriguing insights in Confessions of an Ad Man. This is a fun romp as Steve explains how marketers sell us stuff. Then he goes deeper, showing his audiences how to build their personal brand.
Today, here's my comment. Folks, advertising is nothing more than a microcosm of life itself. Now, let me show you something else. This is a gift card from some retailer. Does anybody in here have any idea whose gift card this is? Right, it's Target's, right? But here's the question, how do you know that? I mean, I don't see the word Target on that thing anywhere. How do you know it? It's because when an advertiser has done their job correctly, then people will become very, very familiar with the brand. Frequently, when an advertiser begins a campaign, they'll start by running 30-second TV commercials. And once the audience has become familiar with the promises within that 30-second commercial, they'll cut it down to a 10-second commercial. Why do they do that? They do that because a 10-second commercial only costs 50% as much to run as the 30 did. But here's the cool thing. Once the public has gotten familiar with that 30-second commercial, they will automatically read all of the thoughts from the 30-second commercial into the 10-second commercial. This is the way branding really happens.
In the 1990s, Steve hosted Coast to Coast Gold, his national radio show where he interviewed the biggest stars from the early rock and roll era. Today, Steve takes his audiences backstage with funny and poignant stories about the famous people he's known and worked with and the life lessons he learned through those experiences in his popular presentation, Pop Goes the Music.
Whoa, yeah, everybody's having a good time tonight. I am so glad that you're all here tonight because we're going to have some fun. We're going to go back in a little thing that I call Pop Goes the Music and talk about some stories from the first 2 decades of rock and roll's history.
Gold, coast to coast gold with Steve Diggs.
Each week, I have the joy of getting to meet and visit with some of the greatest artists from the first 2 decades of rock and roll's history. Tonight, we're going to pull back the curtain and I'm going to share some stories, some very personal stories in cases, about some of the people that made the great music. And yes, I am also going to be telling you some stories about the King. And I'm going to be telling you some stories about a young man that met the King back in the 1970s and some time that I had with Elvis.